Welcome to Everlasting Talk. Hello, welcome to Everlasting Talk. I'm your host, Evaristo, and this is the Biography series. Today we're talking about the dictator named as Pol Pot. Pol Pot was the leader of Cambodia and would cause one of the biggest war crimes against his people, which he killed millions of men, women, and children to bring his communist utopia to existence. Pol Pot was born on May 19, 1925 in Prek Sprav, Cambodia. His real name was Saloth Sar. He was part Chinese and part Kashmir. The father of a rich farmer, he was able to go to elite schools, was the eighth of 9 children. He was in an era in Cambodia where there was turmoil. The French had Cambodia until World War II when the Japanese took over when the French fell to the Germans in 1945. He didn't agree with the Democratic Party and left to Paris, France. In Paris, he would be involved in the French Communist Party and indoctrinate himself on the readings of Stalin and others such as Marxist, Lenin, and other communist leaders. He would eventually return to Cambodia where he would plot to overthrow the government, a coup. He would work with Vietnam and China, forming the Khmer Rouge. And in January 1968, he would wage war against the king, but it was Lo Lan who took over Cambodia instead of him. Actually, Pol Pot would end up going to be in China at the time when Lo Lan would take over Cambodia. The Khmer Rouge grew stronger and stronger once the Viet Cong invaded Cambodia and South Vietnam and the United States started bombing Cambodia. In 1974, the Khmer Rouge won and executed 700 to 800 Cambodian military personnel. So they wiped out most of their military just to have, I think it was more to have loyalty, so only their leaders would have it. And it was definitely a precedent that they would just pretty much kill off or execute over almost 700-800 people. That's a lot. Pol Pot would actually come into power on April 20th, 1975. He went ahead and actually started a purging campaign with the population, as many were accused as spies. By 1978, tens of thousands were killed. Men, women, children, it didn't matter. He would prefer to kill people who were educated and be doctors and lawyers and teachers and authors. Pretty much wanted to make a new start for the Cambodian people. So he pretty much would wipe out all those populations, and he preferred only to have farmers. About 21% to 24% of the Cambodian population died due to the Khmer Rouge policy. About 1.6 to 1.8 million people total. That's a lot of people. 1 million people. That's genocide numbers, to be honest. That's just crazy. I'm surprised nobody stopped them. At the time, there's so many genocides in the 60s and 70s that I don't know. It's kind of, for my opinion, there's a lot. About 300,000 people starved to death from 1979 to 1980 alone. So the country didn't have sufficient food rations because obviously they would just kill off people, and obviously there's no way to feed so many people. So 300,000 people had to perish. They perished, and it was known as the killing fields where bodies were being put. So there was literally thousands of bodies in this big holes. It was just insane. People would just throw them in there. It's just crazy how how these things were let by. We gotta learn from our mistakes, especially with, it's technically a cleansing of sorts, not ethnic cleansing, but it's cleansing of the country itself. It's just killing thousands of people, millions of people. So if you ever noticed, there's a museum where they would actually show the bones, the skulls of the people that died in those killing fields. And there's also pictures and stuff, and so many crazy things. And obviously the Khmer Rouge would have Rouge is red, so they would have a red scarf. So that's how they identify themselves. many years after he resigned, after many years he resigned in 1985, but still had power. So he's kind of like he would resign, but he'd still be there. So he just kind of had a puppet as his like puppet. It was like a puppet state, so he was technically like under control of it. Actually, he was arrested in 1987, Pol Pot, and was placed under house arrest. He would actually die on April 15, 1998, due to heart failure. Surprisingly, I'm surprised he had a heart. you know, you die from heart failure, but you just pretty much, your campaign pretty much wiped out millions of people that the country's still, combating, still fighting through or having that memory of. Because a lot of the population now is like all young people there, so like pretty much, nobody, it's pretty crazy. He never actually get a trial for his crimes, and never got his comeupping, never got his life. Like unlike other genocides, he wasn't like convicted or anything, so he pretty much lived his life to, to his, to his foregone conclusion of having heart failure. Surprised he had heart failure, but but yeah, it's everything else. But yeah, Pol Pot was a controversial leader. His ideologies would definitely be a deterrent to the country Cambodia. I mean, millions of people died. The educated, anyone who was undesirable to him and his Khmer Rouge would be executed, and there's still repercussions to this day because so many people were killed. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend actually Pol Pot, an Anatomy of a Nightmare by Philip Shan. There's also a movie. I think it was called "They Killed My Father." I think it's on one of the streaming services. It's pretty much a story about a little girl who would go through during the time when the Khmer Rouge would be in power or coming to power, and how it impacted her and many young people, especially to this day, because most people in the 70s at the time when this happened they're probably in their 50s or 60s, I think, like 40s or 50s or 50s and 60s. So it's definitely still fresh in a lot of people's minds. I would definitely look into that book, The Anatomy of a Nightmare. I'm sorry I said it wrong. But yeah, I mean, this is Pol Pot, controversial figure, leading one of the biggest genocides in the 20th century. So yeah, if anything, I'll definitely look into more research about what he did. I will definitely check out that movie. It definitely shows the victim perspective of what happened. There's probably a movie out there about himself. Like there's always movies about these, dictators and these leaders. But I'll definitely look into that movie. It's more into the victim perspective, and that's definitely who matters more right now. Especially the repercussions still going on to this day. So yeah, that was Pol Pot. And guys, thank you so much for listening. Follow Everlasting Talk on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. And leave a review. Everything helps. I definitely try to improve my show. I know I haven't recorded in a while. I try to make sure I improve more, but definitely tell your friends and family because it is very helpful for me to learn from my mistakes. And guys, actually, thank you so much for your time, and have a good rest of June. And thank you so much. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Everlasting Talk. For more content, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Everlasting Talk. Thank you.